Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is going on, brothers and sisters? It is Daniel, and we're back here again today. Alhamdulillah. Today, we're having Dad join us for a video. We're going to watch Shahid Bolsen. I personally think Shahid Bolsen is a very well-spoken man. He's a Muslim, and I think he gives very articulate points. I think his points are well thought out. They're well delivered. I don't know if I agree with everything he says. Of course, I don't agree with everything anyone says, but
well, that's a fact.
yeah.
But Dad,
But I do think he gives interesting perspectives on things, especially like political things. And my dad is really a lot more into politics than I am.
it's true.
Yeah, and so I thought maybe my dad will enjoy watching something from Shahid Bolsen. He can kind of see what is a Islamic perspective on some of this stuff that's happening right now, and I thought this would be a good person for him to watch, because he's also Western, so it's not like
This guy's Western.
yeah, he's American. He's American, but I can't even remember his story actually. Like he became Muslim somehow, and then lived in the Middle East for a while, and then he had kind of troubles in his history and kind of a controversial past. But now I believe he lives in Malaysia. But
I see.
yeah, he is American originally.
South of here.
Say what?
South of here.
South of here, yeah, not far.
Not far.
Okay, so let's see. This is about kind of the more recent things involving Yemen and the Houthis, which I think my dad knows more than I know about this stuff. But we'll see. Hopefully, I can learn something and
Maybe I'll get a different perspective.
right, there we go. So let's see. Let's see what Shahid Bolsen has to say here.
Well, okay, so the Houthis are disrupting the Red Sea, disrupting shipping and transport in the Red Sea. And now all of the major companies, basically all of the major companies, the ones that matter the most, shipping companies, are saying that they are going to bypass the Red Sea. They're not going to travel through the Red Sea. They're not going to
go
ship through the
around.
Red Sea. That includes oil and gas shipments going through the Red Sea. Now, all of those ships, those container ships, are going to have to take a route all the way around the Cape of Good Hope, all the way around Africa. That's, I think, adding about 50% more distance for those ships, depending on where they're going. Of course, most of them are going
Where
to
they're
Europe.
coming from.
So, as I said before, the impact of what the Houthis are doing, let's think about that. The impact of what they're doing, it's disrupting global transport, which is disrupting global supply chains, disrupting global trade, international trade. It is increasing the oil consumption, the energy consumption, fuel consumption for global shipping. That's good for oil producers. It is spiking the price of oil. That's good for oil producers. Spiking the price of natural gas. All energy fuel prices are going to go up and already have gone up. So that's good. That's good for Saudi Arabia. That's good for the UAE. That's good for the Gulf. Who it's not good for, predictably, because nothing seems to be good news for them these days, is Europe. This is just another aspect of cutting Europe off from any other sources of support, any other options for independence or political independence or economic independence, economic sovereignty. It's cutting them off to where now they're going to become even more dependent upon oil and natural gas from the United States. This is, in my opinion, this is all in conjunction with the destabilization plan against Europe that has been going on ever since the Ukraine war started, and more specifically, the sanctions regime against Russia. That was always intended to destabilize Europe, to subjugate Europe, to deindustrialize Europe, and to make Europe more and more like the so-called third world. Now, you notice that this is happening right at the start of winter in Europe. So it's going to be very difficult for winter. The energy prices are going to be even higher than they already were. The energy prices are going to be even higher than they were last year. The only ones who are really hurt by this by what the Houthis are doing. The only ones who are really hurt by this is the EU, the Europeans. Now, you have to bear in mind that all of this is also happening within the context of rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and the unprecedented diplomatic coordination between the BRICS countries, between Saudi Arabia and Iran and Russia and China, as well as South Africa. I mean, it's not inconceivable. I mean, if you think about the fact that all of these ships that were going through the Red Sea are now going to have to pass around the Cape of Good Hope, and most likely they're going to be docking in South Africa at some point, and that's going to be financially beneficial for South Africa, which is a BRICS nation. Everything that's happening, subhanAllah, everything that's happening appears to be a boost for the BRICS nations, including Saudi Arabia, including the UAE, and including India. Because if you think about it also, I can't think of anything that would have been have provided more of a boost for the India, Middle East, Europe trade corridor that's been planned than what the Houthis are doing. What the Houthis are doing in the Red Sea is allowing Saudi Arabia and their BlackRock partners and their partners in the Western, but not necessarily Western-oriented, globally oriented OCGFC, to make the point that the Saudi plan for the region, the Saudi plan for the Middle East, is your only option moving forward. Because if conflict continues in the region, the whole global economy is going to be devastated. If war breaks out.
Are you following?
I am. There's only one point that he made there that I just really didn't understand, was how this movement actually benefits everyone except the EU.
Did he say that?
Well,
he said I think he said
pretty much everyone. I thought he was going to say it was going to help the United States because they're going to become more reliant upon the oil.
That's what he did say that.
He did, but does that mean it helps the United States?
He said it could. I think he said it could potentially benefit the U.S. because the EU will be more reliant upon the U.S. oil because now that oil
right
from
now
the East.
the U.S. is making more oil than anyone in the world.
Okay,
that's weird, isn't it?
I don't know.
Right? Well, think about it. I mean,
so
they're not normally even
not into this realm at all. But so he didn't say that it's benefiting every. What did you say?
He said that it's gonna hurt the EU.
Yeah, he said the.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
What he said is that the only person that's really going to hurt is the EU, and everyone else, the damage is minimal. But like,
it's going to help South Africa. It's going to help Saudi Arabia. It's going to help the BRICS nations, but it'll hurt the EU. And he said just at a critical time, which was right before winter. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, they did the same thing last winter. They hurt the EU by saying all these things about you have to farm a certain way. You have to buy these fertilizers. You can't use that.
Yeah.
It raised the food prices
because of Russia, right, and Ukraine.
Global warming. This is the big thing.
I thought it was because fertilizer comes from Russia.
Well, it might have been, and then they, blow up the Nord Stream 2, and
this stuff is like actually not my realm, but I'm trying to hang on.
It's
over what's happening in the Red Sea, and if the United States is allowed to escalate the conflict to become a war against Iran, that's going to be devastating for the global economy. Saudi Arabia has been trying to figure out ways that they can get the oil price up. They've been trying to figure out ways to increase consumption of fossil fuels. Particularly, they have focused on shipping. Well, you have the perfect way to increase fuel consumption.
Yeah, make them go further.
Shipping. And it's also providing a very convincing argument for why you need this India, Middle East, Europe trade corridor that also bypasses the Red Sea. Bear in mind also that this trade corridor passes through Israel. So this is also creating more of an incentive to integrate Israel into the region. it's creating an incentive to Israel. Because look at why are the Houthis doing what they're doing officially? The official reason that they're doing what they're doing is because there was no ceasefire and because of the genocidal violence of the Zionists in Gaza. This is the reason why they're doing what they're doing. So the insistence on Zionism, the insistence on supporting Israeli genocidal violence is creating a threat to the global economy. So they're sending a message that conflict and violence is not the way forward, but integration is the way forward. Integration is the way for a stable global economy. Because pursuing the path of violence and conflict is going to spike the oil prices. It's going to disrupt the supply chain. It's going to increase
your shipping costs,
insurance, the cost of transport, international shipping. It's devastating. It's incredibly destabilizing.
and they're doing it with little drones.
However, if you are peaceful and pursue peaceful integration into the region, everything can flow normally. To one extent or another, I believe that what the Houthis are doing is with the coordination of Saudi Arabia and Iran and Russia and
It's a
with
bold
China
statement.
and the BRICS nations, to some extent. I mean, the Houthis are more or less autonomous. They are Iranian proxies within reason. They do still operate with a level of autonomy. However,
Out of Yemen.
I don't think that they operate completely without direction. And you notice that Saudi Arabia and the UAE and only none of the Gulf states, except for Bahrain, none of the Gulf states are participating in America's so-called Operation Prosperity Guardian or whatever it's called. This operation is not about guarding anyone's prosperity but the United States in terms of their oil and gas shipments to Europe. The prosperity for their oil and gas companies and their oil and natural gas shipments to Europe. That's the only prosperity that can possibly come out of this. Because obviously when you militarize the Red Sea and you increase the risks, you're not guaranteeing that ships are going to pass through the Red Sea now. Just because those warships are there, that's not going to embolden anyone or give anyone enough confidence now to bring their ships into what looks like a war zone. You're guaranteeing that those ships, that commercial transport is not going to move through the Red Sea. Not to mention the fact that if they have to pass through what appears to be a war zone, the cost of insurance for international transport is going to skyrocket. So no, America's actions are not helping the situation in any way, shape, or form. They're exacerbating they're actually exacerbating the impact of what the Houthis are doing. Because the only way that you can actually, and you notice that Saudi Arabia has tried to warn the United States to exercise restraint and to not pursue a military strategy against the Houthis. Saudi Arabia talking about don't pursue a military strategy against the Houthis in response to their attacks on the vessels in the Red Sea. Because they're showing that the only option is to get on board with the Saudi plan, because it's a Saudi plan and it's a BlackRock plan for the region, in my opinion. And then you had this talk about there was an article in the in an Israeli newspaper that was saying that a land bridge has been activated going through Saudi Arabia, going through Jordan into Israel. Jordan has denied it. Saudi Arabia, I believe, has denied it. UAE also was supposed to be involved in this. Now, that deal was signed only about 10 days ago. That's a deal. It's a deal. That deal actually exists, but it was only signed about 10 days ago. And it requires some 2,000 kilometers of road and infrastructure. It's doubtful to me whether or not any shipments have actually started on that, because I'm doubtful. I'm dubious, skeptical as to whether or not 2,000 kilometers of infrastructure has actually been laid and completed in 10 days' time. But even if that land bridge exists, I don't really see why there's any reason to be upset about that. I don't see any reason why anyone should be angry about that. All that does is create greater dependence from Israel on the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Jordan. That gives the neighboring countries leverage. There's no reason to be angry about that. And the same thing is true about the India, Middle East, Europe trade corridor. That's creating a dependency not only for Israel, but also for Europe and also for India. It's making the UAE and Saudi Arabia a hub of trade between Asia and the West. It's incredibly strategic. And both the potential land bridge that I don't believe it's actually been activated. I don't believe any shipments have actually passed as yet. But this land bridge idea and the trade corridor, both of these measures create greater dependency for Israel and isolate Israel. And it shows the owners and controllers of global financialized capital that there is a feasible way of handling the region. And that way for the region requires an end to the conflict. It requires peace. It requires integration of Israel into the region. And as long as they continue to be supported by the United States, as long as their genocidal Zionist violence continues to be supported by the United States, the region is never going to be stable, and you're never going to be able to pursue any of these very viable, very profitable, and potentially prosperous strategies for the region. And I don't think that anyone from the OCGFC, or anyway, from the majority of the factions of the OCGFC, are going to be interested in continuing to pursue the policy of conflict and instability. Because look, if the United States escalates and this becomes a war with Iran, then the Straits of Hormuz are going to be closed. So then you have the Red Sea is closed, Suez is functionally, practically speaking, Suez is closed, the Straits of Hormuz are closed, and no oil from the Middle East is going to move at all. And the price of oil will go to over $100 a barrel, maybe 200, who knows, depending on how long it goes on and how bad
Already
it is.
over 100.
And international shipping will come to a grinding halt.
75.
And that hurts everyone from the OCGFC. But the Saudi Arabian plan that they're pursuing, and that the actions of the Houthis are boosting, they're boosting that plan. The plan of the Saudis allows for stable profits, stable prosperity, stable international shipping, stable international trade. They're providing exactly what bin Salman talked about, the Middle East becoming a new Europe, the new Europe. That's exactly what this plan is putting in place. And it's also, like I said before, it's incentivizing the actual integration of Israel into the region, which, it goes without saying, requires their abandonment of Zionism. Because Zionism is what has gotten us to this point. And diplomacy and coordination and integration are the only things that can provide a way out. And I think a way out is what the OCGFC want. So there's a lot of ramifications for what the Houthis are doing. And I don't personally believe for a second that the Houthis are acting on their own, or without instruction, or without guidance from Iran, who's operating upon the instructions, or upon the guidance, or upon coordination anyway, with Saudi Arabia and Russia and China and the BRICS nations in total. And Allahu Alam.
I was going to say, why didn't he just say BRICS?
He said, and Allahu Alam. It means, and God knows best.
What is OGFC again? Owners and controllers of global
financialized cap.
They include Wall Street, the City of London, BlackRock.
Yeah, it's like a slang acronym. So yeah, that's Shahid Bolsen. I mean, not everyone agrees with everything he says, and he's got a lot of critics. But there's also a lot of people that really like him and appreciate his stance on things and his work. I mean, he makes a lot of videos. This is just, he just kind of gives commentary on what's happening. You can see here. But he also, what I prefer to watch from him is like his commentaries on the West. I appreciate those a lot. He kind of points out the inconsistencies about the way that the West goes about things, like morally, ethically, and religiously.
You mean like having sex in the Senate staff room and
right,
things like that?
Yeah.
on video. Yeah, yeah, that's morally incorrupt, I would think.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Also
a
about
problem.
like how like the West's perspective on Islam, how it's flawed.
Yeah, I mean, it's been guided to be flawed, in my opinion.
Right. So that's why I like to watch his videos about that. Maybe we can do another one
Okay.
of his. That one was like, yeah, that was political.
Yeah. Well,
I was trying to meet you in the middle there.
you don't want to talk about politics.
I don't really. I mean, I can to a certain extent, but it's like it gets
I
really
get it.
complicated. And it's so, politics is so deep, and it's constantly unraveling. It's like it takes so much energy and time to like actually keep up with it because it's like new things every day.
It's true.
So it's like a hobby. It's like a hobby that you have to like be into and enjoy learning about. Where me, I'm just kind of like, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff going on, and I just don't really care.
Yeah.
In my little world, I guess.
Well, I see this stuff, and I go back to it. I was taught as a soldier, and I'm 17 years old, and they're telling me to focus on Afghanistan, and I'm thinking, what? What's going on over there?
So that was
You know
in
what I
like
mean?
1981.
1981.
Yeah.
I mean, what did the U.S. have to do with Afghanistan in 1981? Literally nothing at that time, but within 10 years they sure did. Seems like a global plan to me. It's all a conspiracy theory, Daniel.
Everything's a conspiracy.
All right.
What did we say the other night? Like conspiracy serial? Yeah.
Right, I'm a conspiracy serial killer.
All right. All right. Enough of the jokes. That was Shahid Bolsen, and may Allah bless you generously for watching this video with us. And inshallah, we will see you all in the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.